So imagine it is like the absolute busiest week of the year for your
Well, like
business.
a kind of week where everything is just hanging by a thread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your entire staff is relying on this artificial intelligence assistant to draft guest emails, summarize vendor contracts, manage the daily schedules, and everything is humming along perfectly.
Right. Until it isn't.
Yeah, until suddenly the giant tech company that actually hosts that AI decides to, well, double their enterprise pricing. Or maybe their servers just crash. Or your local Wi-Fi drops out completely.
And your entire workflow just freezes on the spot.
It completely freezes. And it begs this really uncomfortable question, which is, if you don't actually own the brain that's powering your daily operations, who is actually in control of your business?
Yeah, that vulnerability is pretty much the elephant in the room for modern operations right now. I mean, we've fundamentally conflated having access to intelligence with having actual control over it.
Which is such a huge distinction.
It is. You're basically entirely dependent on this invisible umbilical cord that connects your laptop to a server farm somewhere out in the desert.
And untethering that cord is actually the mission for today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring this really quiet but crucial shift happening in the AI world, which is moving from renting your AI to actually owning it.
Yeah, it's a massive paradigm shift.
To guide us, we are unpacking this fascinating strategy guide by Mike Wilkes. He's an adjunct professor at NYU, and it's titled, Your Third Space Shouldn't Depend on a Third Party, SLM for Boutique Hotels and Small Businesses.
It's a great piece. He really gets into the hidden fragility of relying entirely on cloud AIs. The ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Geminis.
Right, which are miraculous tools, obviously. But today, we're going to outline the highly practical, completely non-intimidating way that you can build a private AI assistant that lives directly on your own laptop.
Yeah, and Wilkes establishes this really brilliant baseline right out of the gate. Like, for the last couple of years, our entire cultural experience with generative AI has been through rented tools.
Always rented.
Always. And he makes it clear that cloud models aren't inherently bad, right? But relying on them exclusively means you surrender the rules of engagement.
Because the landlord can change the rules.
Exactly. A cloud provider can alter their pricing overnight, or they can throttle your access when their servers are under heavy load. Or, a specific feature your team uses every single day could just be deprecated without any warning just because they decided to pivot their product strategy.
The source actually uses this analogy that, honestly, it completely rewired how I view these tools. It compares cloud AI to streaming music.
Oh, that's such a good analogy.
Right, because streaming is amazing. You get this endless catalog of human knowledge instantly, but you only have it until the service decides to, prune the catalog,
Sure.
or until you lose cell service.
Right, you're at their mercy.
Exactly. But a local AI, on the other hand, is like a downloaded album. It is not the entire universe of music, but it is yours forever, and it plays perfectly offline.
The downloaded album metaphor perfectly captures the operational security aspect of all this. Because think about what happens when that streaming service changes for a small business.
It's a huge disruption.
Massive. I mean, if you're a massive multinational corporation, a cloud AI outage or a sudden price hike is, well, it's just a minor inconvenience, right?
You just absorb it.
Right. You have budget buffers. You have massive IT departments to pivot your infrastructure. But if you run a boutique hotel or a family office or like a specialized design studio, an outage during your busiest season literally stops operations cold.
You don't have a backup IP department just waiting in the wings.
Exactly. You're just stuck.
Okay, but I am going to challenge this doomsday framing just a little bit here, because I think a lot of small business owners listening might be thinking the exact same thing I am.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, literally everything a boutique business does is already in the cloud.
Right.
Like their booking system is cloud-based.
Yeah.
They use Stripe for payments. They use QuickBooks for accounting.
Sure.
So if the internet goes down, they are already kind of dead in the water. Why is an AI assistant the one specific piece of technology they suddenly need to hoard on a local hard drive?
That is such a fair question, and it's definitely the core friction point here. But the distinction really comes down to the type of data being processed.
Okay, how so?
Well, a booking system or a payment processor like Stripe that handles highly structured transactional data. You physically need the cloud to verify a credit card with the bank. That's unavoidable.
Right, obviously.
But an AI assistant processes unstructured, highly sensitive operational data. We're talking about internal staff evaluations, proprietary vendor negotiations, rough drafts of desk topologies, or even just raw brainstorming for a new marketing strategy.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, when you put it that way, that is very different.
Right. Sending a credit card ping to the cloud is functionally required for commerce. But sending your business's private institutional knowledge to a third-party server just to get a draft of an email, that is an entirely unnecessary exposure of your competitive moat.
That makes perfect sense. Like losing the cloud kills the cash register, but losing the cloud shouldn't kill your team's ability to actually think or draft or synthesize information.
Exactly. You don't want to outsource your core thinking process.
Which brings us to the actual mechanism that Wilkes proposes for taking back control, which is small language models or SLMs.
Yes, the S-sums.
Because
Yeah.
we hear endlessly about large language models. But the term small here probably needs some unpacking. Like what mechanically makes an SLM small enough to just run on a standard laptop?
So the defining characteristic lies in what data scientists call parameters. And you can think of parameters essentially as the artificial synapses in the AI's brain.
Okay, synapses. Got it.
Right. So a massive cloud model like GPT-4 has over 1 trillion of these synapses. And that massive network allows for vast, complex reasoning, but it requires a literal warehouse full of supercomputers to fire all those synapses at once.
Right, which you obviously don't have in your back office.
No, definitely not. But a small language model, on the other hand, is highly distilled. It might only have 7 or 8 billion synapses.
So it's basically a physically smaller neural network. Like, it can't write a PhD thesis on quantum mechanics, but it has more than enough of those synapses to understand grammar, tone, logic, basic reasoning for, everyday office tasks.
Precisely. It is optimized to be lightweight. And because it's smaller, you can download those 8 billion synapses directly onto your own personal hardware.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And Wilkes is really adamant that setting this up and using it is absolutely not a computer science project.
Right. He outlines these highly specific, everyday use cases for a boutique hotel to prove how capable these smaller brains actually are.
Yeah, and those examples really bring the concept out of the abstract, I think. Anyone managing a team can totally relate to them.
Oh, for sure. He talks about using an SLM to take a really messy, hurried note from a manager and instantly turning it into this warm, professional message to a guest.
Well, we've all been there.
Right. You get a sticky note from a stressed-out shift manager that just says, like, plumbing broke in room 402. Moved guest to 405. Comped their breakfast. Apologize.
Good luck sending that to a VIP.
Exactly. You have to spin that really crude information into a high-end, graceful apology letter.
And critically, an SLN does that instantly right on your desktop without sending your guest's room number or their issue or their compensation details up to some public cloud where it could potentially be ingested as training data.
Which is huge for privacy.
It's massive. Wilkes also highlights using the SLM to turn really dense housekeeping policies into actionable, bulleted checklists. Or, you can use it to summarize a 30-page vendor proposal in plain English.
Or compare two different versions of a complex cancellation policy to spot the hidden changes. That one blew my mind a little bit.
Oh, it's such a time saver. It is brilliant for maintaining brand voice, too. You can ask it to draft a pre-arrival email for a guest and simply tell the local model, hey, make this sound elegant but concise.
So the goal here really isn't to build a, robot hotelier that runs the whole business for you autonomously.
No, not at all.
It's just to give your already capable staff a tireless private assistant to handle the repetitive, boring stuff that slows them down.
Exactly. But it is also really important to define what this tool is not. Setting boundaries is crucial for having realistic expectations.
Right, because it only has the 8 billion synapses.
Yeah, because it has 8 billion synapses instead of 1 trillion, its raw reasoning power is fundamentally lower than those top-tier cloud models.
Makes sense.
So you should absolutely not use an SLM for complex legal analysis or to make high-stakes financial decisions. It is not going to write advanced software code for you, and it will definitely struggle to maintain context over a really long, highly complex research project.
So it's basically giving your team a safe sandbox to process internal documents like staff handbooks, maintenance logs, event proposals, knowing that data never leaves the building.
That's the perfect way to look at it. So if we accept the value of this private sandbox, we have to look at the mechanics of actually building it.
Right, because historically running AI locally sounded like this dark art that required a specialized engineering degree.
Oh, totally. But Wilkes demystifies the entire setup process into a surprisingly simple 3-part recipe: the computer, the software, and the model.
Okay, let's break those down, starting with the computer itself. Because the first piece of good news here is that a modern laptop is often powerful enough,
It really is.
Wilkes highlights that Apple's Silicon Macs, the ones with the M-series chips, are currently the simplest path. But whether you are on a Mac, a Windows machine, or Linux, the critical bottleneck actually isn't the processor speed.
No, it's the memory, the RAM.
Right, RAM.
Memory is the entire ballgame for local AI. Wilkes suggests 16 gigabytes of memory is kind of the bare minimum to experiment with the smaller models.
Okay, 16 gigs.
But upgrading to 32 gigabytes is where the experience actually gets comfortable. And if you have a machine with 64 gigabytes or more, well, then you open the door to much larger, more capable open source models.
And for Windows and Linux specifically, that memory usually needs to be video RAM on a dedicated NVIDIA graphics card, right?
Yes, that's a very important distinction for PC users.
I really want to pause on this memory requirement, actually, because I think it's the biggest point of confusion for anyone coming from standard software.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, why does an AI assistant need 32 gigabytes of RAM when heavy software like Microsoft Word or Excel only uses a tiny, tiny fraction of that? What is actually happening inside the machine?
There is a really fundamental question of architecture. See, when you open a standard program like Microsoft Word, your computer doesn't load every single feature into active memory at once.
Right, it just grabs what it needs.
Exactly. It reads the files sequentially from your hard drive as you need them. It's highly efficient. But large language models cannot function that way. To predict even a single word, an AI has to process your prompt through its entire neural network simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it must load all 8 billion parameters, its entire brain, into active high-speed memory all at once.
So it's kind of the difference between looking up a recipe in a cookbook versus having to hold the entire culinary history of the world in your active conscious mind just to chop an onion.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it, yes.
The hard drive is just too slow for that kind of instantaneous cognitive load. The model has to live entirely in the RAM to actually think.
Exactly. And if your computer doesn't have enough RAM to fit the entire model, it tries to swap parts of the brain back and forth to this slow hard drive. And when that happens, the AI essentially freezes up, or it types at like 1 word per minute.
Which is completely useless.
Right. And this is actually why the Apple Silicon chips are so highly recommended by Wilkes. Apple uses what they call unified memory.
Meaning the main processor and the graphics processor share the exact same pool of RAM.
Spot on. You don't have to ferry data across the motherboard, which makes running these models incredibly fast and really power efficient on just a simple laptop.
That makes perfect sense of the hardware side. Which leads us to part 2 of the recipe, the software. Because once I have the computer and the memory, how do I actually talk to this AI brain?
Right. Your web browser clearly isn't equipped for this.
No. Definitely not.
So you need a dedicated application to host the model. And Wilkes points to a tool called LM Studio as the absolute best starting point for beginners.
LM Studio. Okay.
Yeah, it operates just like a normal desktop app. You download it, install it, and you're presented with a clean, familiar chat interface that looks very much like the standard cloud AI tools you already use.
So no command line required.
No command line, no coding, and no complex configuration files to edit. It is super straightforward.
He also mentions a tool called Llama, right? Which is deeply respected in the developer community, though it leans a bit more toward people who are comfortable, like copying and pasting commands into a terminal window.
Yeah, Llama is great if you don't mind getting slightly more technical.
But if you want to take local AI to its logical extreme and actually chat directly with your own private files, like uploading massive PDF vendor contracts or staff policies, he suggests pairing your local model with a chat interface like OpenWebUI or anything LLM.
Right, and those interfaces essentially turn your raw local model into a fully featured workspace. They allow the AI to read your specific documents and answer questions based solely on that private data.
Which is exactly what businesses want.
No.
So then we arrive at the third part of the recipe, the model itself, the actual downloadable brain.
The brain.
Wilkes mentions a few open-weight model families that are leading the pack right now, specifically Llama, Qwen, and Mistral.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
And open weight simply means the creators have released the core neural architecture to the public, allowing anyone to download it and run it locally.
Though the source does add a crucial caveat to always check the specific commercial license if you plan to use it to generate revenue for your business.
Oh, right, the licensing.
Yeah, it's a small but necessary legal check. Some open weight models are entirely free for any use. Others require a licensing fee if your business makes over a certain threshold, usually hundreds of millions of dollars.
Which, let's be real, most boutique hotels do not need to worry about.
No, probably not.
But here is the piece of advice from the source that genuinely made me laugh out loud with relief. After listing those model names, Wilkes explicitly tells the reader, do not try to memorize them.
Best advice in the whole guide.
He says the AI landscape is moving in such a breakneck speed that whatever is considered the best model today will be entirely obsolete in 3 months.
It is so practical. Trying to keep up with the daily model releases on open source platforms is a full-time job.
It's a huge relief as a non-technical person, but, I mean, it begs an obvious logistical question.
Okay, what's that?
If I am a non-technical manager, and I shouldn't bother memorizing the names of the models, how do I actually know what to search for and download when I finally open that LM Studio software?
Well, to solve that, Wilkes introduces what might be the most brilliant, slightly ironic hack for modern productivity.
I love this part.
You don't need to track the model names. You only need to know 4 very basic facts about your own computer.
Okay, what are the 4 facts?
What is your operating system?
Yeah.
How much total memory do you have? How much free disk space is available? And do you have a dedicated graphics card?
Just those 4 things. And armed with those 4 bullet points, Wilkes suggests using the landlord to help build your own house.
Exactly. To set up your private, completely offline AI, you are going to use a public cloud AI.
Using the cloud to escape the cloud. It is wonderfully pragmatic.
It really is.
He provides an exact word-for-word prompt strategy. You open up your current cloud AI, whether that's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and you give it a very specific persona.
Right, you have to frame it perfectly.
You tell it, you are an IT consultant helping me set up a local AI assistant on my own computer for a boutique small business. I want something practical, private, and realistic. I'm not technical, so explain things plainly without jargon and give me step-by-step instructions.
That's a great prompt right out of the gate.
And then you feed it your 4 computer specs. In his example, he inputs a macOS 14-inch MacBook Pro, an M-series chip, 32 gigabytes of memory, and 400 gigabytes of free hard drive space.
And the genius of this prompt isn't just the persona, it is the 7 distinct directives it gives the cloud AI. You are forcing the cloud model to write a highly customized, foolproof instruction manual tailored precisely to your specific laptop.
Okay, so what do you actually ask it to do?
Well, Directive 1 asks the AI to confirm if your hardware is actually sufficient to run a model. Directive 2 asks it to recommend the absolute best primary model available today, based on your specs, plus 1 smaller backup model.
Oh, wow. Having the backup model is such a smart inclusion.
It really is.
Because if you download the primary model and it's running too slow, or it's generating glitchy text because it's maxing out your RAM, you aren't stuck troubleshooting. You just switch to the lighter backup.
Exactly. Then Directive 3 asks for the simplest software recommendation for a non-technical user. Directive 4 demands exact click-by-click installation instructions for your specific operating system.
So it's basically holding your hand the whole way.
Literally. Directive 5 asks the AI to provide a real-world small business task you can use to test the setup. Directive 6 asks for instructions on how to confirm the system is working completely offline. And Directive 7 asks the AI to preemptively explain the most common errors you might encounter and exactly how to fix them.
It literally generates a bespoke IT manual for your exact desk setup in about 10 seconds.
It's incredible.
And that 6th directive, confirming the system, works offline. That leads directly to what Wilkes calls the 5-minute offline test. Let's walk through the mechanics of this test, because the psychological weight of this moment for a business owner is massive.
Oh, it's a huge moment. And the execution is straightforward. Once you follow your custom manual, get the software installed, and download the recommended model, you open the application.
Okay, so you're looking at the chat interface.
Right. You type in a standard prompt, maybe asking it to draft a guest welcome note or summarize a short policy document, and you watch the text generate on your screen, confirming that the model's logic is actually coherent and useful.
And then you reach up to the top corner of your screen, you click your Wi-Fi icon, and you toggle it entirely off.
Yep.
You sever your computer from the rest of the world.
You are now functioning in a complete digital vacuum.
Exactly. You type a second brand new prompt into the chat interface.
Yeah.
You hit enter. And when those words start appearing on your screen, answering your question in real time, that is the aha moment.
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Right. Because you know for an absolute fact that your laptop has zero connection to the outside world. There is no server farm in the desert. There is no tech giant processing your keystrokes. You own this intelligence. It lives entirely inside the metal and silicon sitting on your desk.
It is a profound realization of operational independence. You are suddenly immune to an internet service outage in your neighborhood. You are immune to a server maintenance window. For that specific suite of drafting and analyzing tasks, your business is entirely self-sufficient.
But, and this is a big but, the source is very careful to ground this excitement with a heavy dose of reality. There is a golden rule here for any manager trying this for the first time.
Yes. Wilkes is emphatic on this point. Do not turn your first week of local AI into a massive disruptive IT project.
Keep the scope incredibly tight.
Exactly. Start with one single computer. Pick one boring, repetitive, but highly valuable task.
Like generating that daily staff checklist, or creating a response template for the most common guest inquiry you receive.
Perfect examples. Test that single task thoroughly. Observe if the local model actually helps your team complete that one specific objective faster, more privately, or with more consistency.
So don't attempt to digitally transform your entire business operation on a Tuesday afternoon.
Definitely not. AI is meant to support your human attention to detail, not replace your judgment. It will not magically understand the nuanced culture of your business the moment you turn it on.
It is a tool, not a silver bullet. And Wilkes actually makes a point to remind us that cloud AI is still incredibly powerful. We shouldn't just abandon the cloud altogether.
No, not at all.
A wise business learns to hybridize using the massive cloud models for heavy lifting, broad research, or public-facing tasks, while leveraging the local SLM for private, routine, sensitive daily operations.
Exactly. Because if we pull back and look at the bigger picture of what makes any boutique business successful, it ultimately comes down to human judgment, specific taste, unshakable trust, and a relentless attention to detail.
That's your competitive advantage.
Right. Your unique brand voice, the specific proprietary way you handle a complex guest complaint, the customized knowledge baked into your event proposals, that's all you. A local small language model just gives you the technological capability to leverage artificial intelligence while actively protecting the trust that defines your brand.
Whether you are prepping for a board meeting, running a small operational team, or you're just, insanely curious about the mechanical realities of where technology is heading, this guide proves that the barrier to entry has completely evaporated.
It really has.
You can run cutting-edge AI completely privately. You can govern your own data on your own terms. And you absolutely do not need to be a software engineer to make it happen.
It democratizes a level of computational power and privacy that, until very recently, was locked safely behind the walls of enterprise tech companies.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over as you look at your own workflow. Think about all the proprietary data sitting on your hard drive right now.
A lot of data, usually.
If a small business's true competitive advantage is its institutional knowledge and its human taste, how much of that intelligence are you currently giving away for free to train public cloud models every single time you use them to draft an email?
Oof, yeah.
And what kind of powerhouse could your business become if you started keeping all of your most valuable operational secrets safely locked on your own hard drive, processing them with a brain you actually own?
It really makes you look at that downloaded album a little differently than the endless streaming catalog, doesn't it?
It really does. You might not have the whole universe of data, but what you do have is finally truly yours.
That independence is the ultimate value of building your own third space.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Sure.
Until next time.